Hola, buenas tardes, bienvenidas y bienvenidos al UnanTalks número 31. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí en un UnanTalks realmente muy especial y voy a cambiar al inglés si nos importa, ya que nuestro invitado habla en inglés. We will add subtitles as soon as we finish this, so don't worry, you will be able to understand everything. But I know you all speak English fluently, so no worries. First of all, I have to say hello and thank you to Angelica to join me today again for another streaming show. Hello, Angelica. How are you?
Hello, good afternoon. It's a real amazing pleasure to have this special guest today, and as usual, to stay with you in this one UnanTalks more.
So, hello, Barry. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I think it's. I don't need to introduce Barry so much, but I wrote something as usual. If you check his Twitter profile, you can see that he's a search geek, as he says. He may be the most informed and updated person in the world about Google. CEO of RustyBrick, founder of Search Engine Roundtable, news editor at Search Engine Land, speaker, moderator, and has an advisory role for several internet companies and startups. He even has his own Wikipedia page, although I see a problem, Barry, because if I search your name in Google, I see a psychologist. What happened?
So the more famous Barry Schwartz ranks above me.
Not for the SEO world, though.
Not for the SEO, no. But he's written many books. He's a professor. He's probably, I think, in his 70s or 80s. He's spoken all over the world. He's much more sought out of. We're our little niche of SEO, pretty well known, but outside of SEO, not known at all. So.
You have to check and change one more thing, because I asked ChatGPT and who are you, and it told me, I'm sorry, but I have to correct you. Barry Schwartz is an expert in psychology, and his work focuses on the study of human decision making, not on SEO and Google. So you have to change topic, I think.
Well, that's the that's the Barry Schwartz that's well known. He's a professor in that topic, and he actually spoke at Google a couple times, I believe, at their some of their coffee talks, whatever they call them. So I've spoken also, but he's just well more respected. He's well smarter. He's better looking. He's the Barry Schwartz everybody wants. So.
No. Well, we really want you here. Yeah.
Not for us.
Okay, cool.
I just have to say before we start with the interview, again, thank you in the name of all of the SEO world, and thank you for all the information, investigations, and especially the resumes you do for us to understand what is happening in Google every day, every week, every month, and every moment nearly.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think you are the official translator, Google translator, because sometimes they don't speak clearly, and we need some interpretation, some translation, and you are the man to go. And that's for sure.
Thank you. I'm good at putting words in people's mouths. So.
So, Barry, is Google your longest relationship?
Actually, no. I mean, so RustyBrick, I started RustyBrick with my brother, my actually twin brother, in 1994 while we were in high school. So, and I started Search Engine Roundtable and SEO stuff in the early 2000s. Officially started Search Engine Roundtable in 2003. So my software company, which is how I make most of my money and livelihood, is about 10 years older in terms of relationship. I've been doing it since high school times. But it is longer than Search Engine Roundtable was in 2003, and I got married in 2006. So it's longer than my official relationship, but it's not as long as my company RustyBrick.
Okay, nice. That's good to know.
Really, really nice to know. How did you first fall in love with Google? I mean, it was in your plans to get this attached to the information for the world, because I mean, you are one of the most important people who give us information and get at the information at the real time. Let's say, it was in your plans to fall in love with Google?
No, it was not my plans. Google was early on when I started to cover search. I first got into search engine optimization probably 2001. I just fell in love with the community. There was online discussion forums like Webmaster World, some forums that are no longer around, Creative Site forums, High Rankings forums, Gym World, you name it, there's lots of forums. And I just found it fascinating how there's a bunch of, I guess, geeks in their basements looking at how search engines are changing and how they could get their own websites usually, but sometimes client websites, to rank well in those search engines. And it was just fun to watch. Changing text on the page would have a big impact. It was fun when Google started to become popular to watch how people were following the various Google data centers by IP address to see how the PageRank scores would change and how the rankings would change almost every 30 days. Now it's like real time, but back then it was like every 30 days or so. And it was just really fun to watch how people were sharing tactics and strategies and tips and even hacks on how to actually rank well in search. And it was just kind of fascinating to watch the search community try things and then Google, I guess, over time try to like stop them. And that back and forth was fun to follow. So I became a huge fan of the SEO community and how search works, and it never stopped. I just really do enjoy watching how search is changing and how the search engine optimization community is actually reacting to those changes in the long run. So that's pretty much how I fell in love with it.
That's great. Do you think that this back and forth between SEOs and Google is different right now, or more or less the same?
It's different. In the early days, we wouldn't have any conversations with search engines. I think Matt Cutts, who was formerly known as Google Guy in the Webmaster World forums, didn't start to participate in the forums until later. Later is early for our times, but like he didn't join until 2003, if I'm correct. I don't know, 2004. And there was a lot of misinformation on the internet, and he kind of said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and join and try to help answer questions. But then he did it under an alias called Google Guy. No, he didn't want anybody to know who he was. Now that was the way of the internet. That's why I still go under RustyBrick, because nobody used their real names. It was aliases on the internet. And then that changed, in, I don't know, mid to late 2000s. And we became known of Matt Cutts, and then Matt Cutts hired a whole Webmaster Central team, which is a Search Central team, Webmaster Tools before that. Even Sitemaps, and Vanessa Fox came on board, and John Mueller and Gary, and now the whole team from the search relations team. But that was a slow process. Now, Google did not communicate much. Matt Cutts encouraged that. He set up teams for that, and now we have much more dialogue between the search engine and the SEO community, much more so than we ever did in the past.
Wow. That's a bit of history of Google you showing us now. Crazy. How is your relationship with the company?
My relationship with them, it's fine. They, I hope they respect me. I do think they respect me. I know, John Mueller has said numerous things publicly. I know Danny Sullivan, who I used to work with at Search Engine Land, now works at Google as a search liaison. He said some things publicly that were nice. What they think about me, off the record, I don't know. I don't have access to their emails about Barry said this or Barry said that. But I do bump into Googlers that I've never met, never heard of before, and they say, "Hey, are your emails of your blog posts being passed around?" I don't know if that's a good thing to be passed around. Your blog posts to be passed around inside of Google or not. But they do give me pre-briefing. Like Google I/O is tomorrow, and I am getting a lot of information about that a day or two before, so I could properly communicate what those changes are to the search community specifically. So I'm preparing for that right now, and Google's been really a good partner in giving me some information ahead of time and answering some questions ahead of time so that I could properly communicate what this means for SEOs and publishers and site owners and so forth.
Oh, that's right.
We can say Barry is part of the Google community already, because if you have this special touch with them, for us, you are part of them anyway.
Yeah, no, Google is, I think Google really does care about the SEO community, and I think I'm one of the many avenues for them to reach out to that community and like an olive branch, and also to give information where they think the information could be helpful to site owners and publishers and content creators. So I think there is a good relationship between myself and Google, and in general, I think there's a good relationship between the SEOs in general and Google these days. There were periods where it wasn't so good, but now I think it's in a pretty good place.
That's good to hear. But we talk about the history of Google, but why do you think Google has become the most popular search engine currently? You are like mute.
You asked me why do I think Google is the most popular search engine?
Yeah.
I mean, initially, it was the best. It provided the most relevant and best answers on the internet. I think everybody laughed at Google in the early days, like late 90s, but they really came up with a way to make search more relevant through their page rank and links, looking at content on the web, but also links. And now, back then, Google didn't have Android. They didn't have the phone. They didn't have the browser. They didn't have Chrome. And when Microsoft launched their like MSN search or live search, Google didn't have that, the phone or the browser yet. Microsoft had Internet Explorer. It was the most popular browser on the internet. They took over Netscape in the old days, and Internet Explorer was super big. So I thought that when Microsoft launched their own search engine, they would easily be able to garner huge market share away from Google search in the early days. I was completely wrong. People still, even though Microsoft made MSN Live or Live Search the default search engine on that browser, and everybody was using that browser, people switched it manually to Google. So I think people just preferred Google. Now Google obviously has Android. It has a crazy deal, billions of dollar deal with Apple to be the default in Safari. Google also has the Chrome browser, which is very, very popular, and many other deals. So I think Google's doing whatever they can to hold on to that market share. But at the same time, Google is investing more than anybody else in search. They continue to do that, not just on spam fighting, but also across new algorithms, new features, and so forth. So I think Google is not sitting down and saying, oh, we got this. We don't have to worry about anybody else. I think they're constantly worried, and they're constantly innovating. So I think that's what it takes, as opposed to being cocky about everything. I think they always know that a competitor could come up, and it's just really just changing your, whatever the URL in your browser is, from www.google.com to www.duckduckgo.com, whatever it might be. So I think it's that easy to switch. Google tries to make it harder, but at the same time, I think people are just satisfied with Google search over other search engines. Of course, other search engines like Bing and others could do a pretty good job, but is it that much of a difference compared to Google? Not enough to make people switch.
Okay, we'll talk more about the present and the future of Google regarding AI of all. But we have the first question here in our chat. Natalia is asking, do you think it is easier to do SEO today with more transparency from Google, or was it easier back in the day?
That's a no-brainer. It was much easier back in the day. You could rank for anything with very little content, with very little time. You could literally launch a website today and get it to rank for any keyword you wanted, 20 years ago. It was super easy, much easier than it is today. There's no question about that. It's a simple answer.
Barry, did you do like keyword stuffing and all the kind of all the stuff?
Not really keyword stuffing. I did some testing about how you can manipulate Google with links mostly. And it was very, very easy. It was super easy in the early days to manipulate Google with just, having some links. I never bought links, but there was some networks and stuff like that you were able to play with. I always tested stuff. I did try, testing Google with content, spam, and stuff like that in the old days, just to see what they were saying was legit. That didn't work as well in the early days as link spam back in the year, or link techniques. So you got to constantly test what Google's saying to see if it's real. I never actually did it in a way that I made money off of it. I did it more in terms of, I guess, saying, validating what they were saying, more of a journalistic saying, does this work or not?
Yeah, that's super cool. We can keep talking about Google, but let's just start speaking. How did you decide to start search engine roundtable?
Sure. So I started searching Roundtable when I started to join the forums, and I noticed there were so many amazing contributions in these online discussion forums. People would post deep inside these forums, great tips, great information, and it was often hard for somebody who's really busy or doesn't have enough time to, they're busy with whatever it might be, didn't have enough time to go through all these forum posts. I was so involved in the SEO forums and the communities that I figured I'll pull out what I find to be the most important stuff and put it on my blog. So I basically call it Search Engine Roundtable because it's a roundtable of ideas across the community. And I shared what I found online to be the most important discussions going on online. Obviously, those discussion forums are now kind of more on Twitter and social media, but still, I still try to pull out the most important discussions and conversations that SEOs are having or paid search SEMs are having online, so that the community doesn't have to spend countless hours going through forum threads or tweets or whatever. And I did that mostly for myself, so I could keep track of what's going on. I was able to, if I wrote it, I remembered it. Like if you write something down, generally you remember it. So it was kind of like an online notebook. That's what blogs were online notebooks or online journals. And people started to read it. And as people started to read it, it started to get traffic. I'm like, all right, I'll keep this up. But it's really like a blog for me. I keep track of stuff because I'm very interested in it. And I love going back in history and saying in 2003, Google did this. In 2012, Google did that. Because seeing that progression over time makes it pretty fun to cover things in the future. So I really did it as a way to document what the best thoughts were within the SEO community, as well as what people thought about Google changes and so forth. And the best way to do that was to kind of document it in a blog back then.
Okay. Regarding this site, do you see yourself more as a SEO or more as a journalist? Because you are on top of the news always. You have to inform about Google.
Good question. I don't consider myself an SEO. I don't consider myself a journalist either. I really do consider myself a blogger, an old-fashioned blogger.
Okay.
I make lots of typos. I write fast. I write quick. I post a lot. And I like to just get information out there as quickly as possible in a consumable format. I'm more of by having your own website where you're writing content, by definition, it's journalism. By definition, it's also doing SEO. So you have to do SEO. You have to content marketing, whatever it might be, title tags, meta stuff, structured data. You have to do that, and also you have to know how to write as a journalist. So I never had any training in SEO. I never had any training in journalism in school. I went more for a statistics and marketing research background in school. But yeah, I don't really consider myself a SEO. I don't really do SEO services. I don't consider myself a journalist necessarily, although if you tell people that, they get upset. But again, I like basically covering what people are talking about. And I don't have the best grammar per se. Although people read it and they like it, so I guess people enjoy my content. But I wouldn't. Show any real journalist what I write, they're not going to say I'm a journalist, I don't think. And you show any real SEO, my SEO stuff that I do on my website, they're not going to consider me an SEO, although I write pretty well for almost everything, and I've been writing for a long, long time.
But probably you know more of all the SEOs in the world, so you know more about the history of Google and the search engine and the stuff. So yeah, that's pretty cool, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need like SEO title to be an SEO or to know about it. So yeah. And how do you then stay on top of Google News?
I obviously follow a lot of stuff on discussion forums, on social media. I have a ton of RSS subscriptions where I follow stuff using old days Google Reader, now Feedly. In fact, I received a gift from the Google Reader team in the early days saying I was the #1 consumer of RSS feeds across their whole entire network because I subscribe to everything using RSS. I hate getting email notifications or email newsletters, although people love email newsletters. I don't. I consume so much. Google Alerts, I have tons of custom tracking tools that I use to track different changes at Google. I have drones flying around the Googleplex, just watching people. I'm joking. I'm joking. But I try to track everything that's said on the topic of Google SEO and search from official spokespeople, non-official spokespeople, and some really smart SEOs as well. And that is across the blogs, Twitter, forums, you name it. I just track pretty much everything. not
Wow.
including private stuff. I won't write about anything that's discussed in a private forum, like Facebook private forum, a password protected forum. Even if I might have access to it, if the public can't see it by just going to it, like a Google bot can't crawl it, I will not cover it. That's my rule.
All right.
Nice. You're at very GPT though, controlling everything happening around. That's amazing. Speaking of the artificial intelligence, how do you see the futures of search engine with the artificial intelligence impact?
I mean, we see stuff happening right now. I think it's pretty big. I think Microsoft, you see what's happening with Bing Chat and how they're integrating some of those elements into Bing Search. We saw Google Bard so far, which is somewhat interesting. I think tomorrow you'll see a lot of cool stuff from Google on how they're going to come out with AI in search. I think you saw the New York Times talk about it. You saw the Wall Street Journal, CNBC so far. But tomorrow will be the big day where you'll actually see how big Google's taking this. And there's no joke. There's no doubt that Google's taking this very seriously. So I think AI is currently baked into a lot of search. I know Microsoft Bing said for years and years that most of their algorithm is AI based. Google said not most of our algorithm is AI based, but there's components that are AI based. So obviously feature snippets, Google Lens, you name it. There's lots of different features that are using AI and machine learning. But in terms of what we call generative AI, where AI is generating stuff for you, like you saw with Bing Chat, ChatGPT, Google Bard, where it's giving you answers, creating images with Midjourney and so forth. The creative aspect of generating stuff through AI is going to be super fascinating, not just from how search operates, where search could give you an answer or better understand what your question is and then give you tailor you down the path of finding the correct answer, but also in terms of generating stuff for the SEO community, helping you write content, helping you create images, helping you figure out topics that you might want to go ahead and explore. So I think there's a lot of ways that search will be impacted from a searcher perspective, as well as from an SEO or content marketing perspective. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff down the pipeline.
That's exciting. We are expecting to hear more about tomorrow's event. And here, Jorge Hudson is asking about the Magic Project. We hope to hear more about it tomorrow. Do you think tomorrow will be like the big announcement? Because last show, I don't know if it was like a bit, disappointing.
Yeah, most Google I/O events have very little to talk about when it comes to search. I mean, their big thing is around Google Lens and stuff like that, which is search, but not core search. I think we'll be excited. Everybody's talking about how Google's going to be announcing their all-new search engine at the Google I/O tomorrow. I definitely think that's going to be true, and they have to, or else their stock will drop, and Sundar will have to find a new job. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what you see tomorrow at Google I/O. So definitely tune in or follow what I have to say on Twitter.
Will do.
Definitely. Yeah. What about what do you think about how Google is handled all this situation with the artificial intelligence and stuff? I mean, they had a pretty. We had this sensation that they had to push themselves to take it out. Came out with Bard because Microsoft was growing so fast and stuff. Do you think they feeling the pressure?
Yeah, I do think they were feeling the pressure with the release of Google Bard. Google Bard is a very limited version of their AI models. Google's been touting, we've been doing AI for a long time before everybody else. BERT, Palm, keep going on and on. They have all their AI algorithms. So is Microsoft. And Microsoft, interestingly enough, didn't use their own. They invested in OpenAI, billions of dollars into OpenAI to use their solution. I think the first version of Bard compared to Bing Chat, Bard was a little bit of a letdown. I think Google's feeling the pressure. I do think the next version of what Google releases to the public, hopefully at I/O, will kind of be like, all right, here we are, Google. We are able to go ahead and really compete in this AI space and think about it in a way that maybe other companies haven't been thinking about it. I think Google has a lot more data than most companies have. I think Google's able to process this stuff faster in more real time than most companies, including Microsoft. Although Microsoft's implementation of Bing Chat with their Prometheus aspect, their Prometheus algorithm to bring in more real time stuff that could literally give answers from content that was created minutes ago is amazing. But I think Google is able to train a lot more data a lot faster than most companies. They have a lot of computing power. They are literally at the edge and leading edge of computer chips as well as AI and all that type of stuff. So I don't think they're out of the game. I think there was a lot of pressure, but I think they will come out pretty strong by the end of this year. I think it's going to be a totally different picture. I think you'll have a lot of big players, but I think Google will be safe and pretty powerful going forward.
But it seemed like they were waiting, till they didn't feel this pressure from Microsoft. They were waiting. Why do you think that happened?
So, Google has a lot more to lose than Microsoft. So, it's what's crazy to me is that people are going to ChatGPT or Bing Chat or even Bard and asking questions and getting answers. And the answers are very confident looking, but a lot of them are wrong. They're called hallucinations. But people think they are real. And people are citing this as the answer, even though they could be completely wrong because the AI is hallucinating, which is what they call, I don't like the word hallucinating, but they're making stuff up. It can make stuff up, and it's really, really scary. And I think Google has a lot more to lose by coming out with AI that hallucinates than somebody like Microsoft, which is they're a massive company, but they are not a big player in search. ChatGPT could easily open AI as a nobody, their name, but they're not Google. Google has a lot more to lose when coming out with answers that give bad responses or inaccurate responses. So I think Google's had to take it very seriously. I do think them. I mean, if I was them, I would not have launched Bard before Bing Chat. I would have waited, and also because people could play with ChatGPT for months, then play with Bing Chat, and then a month later we can come out with our thing, and people will be more accustomed to what it should be. And I think Google could probably do a very good job because they know things like the knowledge panel. They could kind of validate stuff better. So we'll see. We'll see what happens going forward. But I do think it was intentional.
Also, if you really think about it, Google has all this information. We give them every day, hundreds and hundreds and tons of information that they can use to give to Bart. No, I think that's also a bit of, they had this small advantage, let's say, in comparison with another. I don't know. Do you think the same, or do you think everyone has the same information to give to their artificial intelligence?
So Microsoft does crawl the web. I mean, Bing search is a big crawler, but people do block them more than they block Google. Also, you have things like Google Translate, you have things like Lens, you have all these inputs that people are giving Google, but at the same time, Microsoft has a lot of these tools as well. It's just the volume that Google has is a lot more than what you have with Microsoft or Bing. So because of that, I think Google has a lot more to train off of. And because of that, I think that's why Google will have the ultimate advantage going forward with this.
Do you think that we are living currently the biggest change and challenge for search engines?
Yeah, I think this is probably the biggest change for search since probably search launched originally. So I think people are going to look back and say, I could be wrong, but I think this is going to be like, okay, this is the biggest change in search since search launched I guess Google launched, or even like text-based search launched in the old days. This is a big deal. People are going to look back and be like, I can't believe I lived through these times. Kind of like landing up an astronaut on the moon or something like that. I think it's that big. To be no joke. So.
Yeah. Wow. And so, do you think SEO is dead now? Like we hear every week, or is it still alive?
No, I don't think SEO is dead. I think the search engines need SEOs to continue to create these content, to make the content accessible, so that they can consume this language. Eventually, maybe can the AI figure out this stuff by themselves? Maybe, probably. But at the same time, I think that doesn't help the ecosystem evolve and feed itself, and it has to go around in the circle. We have advertisers, search engines, content creators, and that circle has to keep going on. So I think the way search will evolve will still require SEOs. Will SEOs create, I don't know, structured data? Probably. Will those jobs change? Like SEO has changed over the years, 100%. But I think the fundamentals of making content accessible to these bots and so forth will be important going forward. So I think SEOs are going to be safe. I just think SEOs have to embrace change, which they always have. SEO is one of the best people at handling change, especially change to their daily tasks, are SEOs. And I think SEOs have been really great at adapting over the years, from text-based search to link-based search, like to spamming Google, to doing white hat stuff, to doing content creation, to coming out with like really great images, to videos. The things has changed over the years. I mean, universal search launched in, I don't know, 2007 or so with Google, and that was like, oh, Google SEO is dead again, because now all they need to do is create videos, so create local listings, or create images, or create whatever. And SEO is like, all right, we'll create that stuff. Now, well, there'll be a different thing that SEOs have to do to make sure their content and their clients' content rank well in the new version of search. And I think SEOs are going to adapt and be fine.
Bernie is asking here in the chat, how do you think Google is going to deal with the handicaps in the future of massive content creation by AI support, crawling, indexing, etc.?
Yeah, I agree. This is a concern for me. I was a little bit surprised by Google's statements early this year around they are okay with AI content, AI-generated content, as long as that content is useful and helpful, and the helpful content, content update and so forth. As long as that content's better and good, they're okay with it. They said, just like we were able to deal with low-quality human-generated content, they will be okay with dealing with low-quality machine-generated content. They've been dealing with it for forever, and that's their stance. And they think they are confident that they will be able to deal and figure out what content is the most useful for the user, for the searcher, even if it's generated by humans or generated by machines. A lot of people are generating content using both. Like, the human will write it, the machines will make it, the AI will make it better. They'll tweak it again, or the opposite. The machine will write it and the human will make it better. So this is collaboration. I think it's more of a calculator that people use to do their projects. So this will be a content calculator for people. And it's going to be able to be used in a way that will generate much more content at scale than we ever seen before. And I think that's the bigger concern, is like, how many pieces of content can you have on Apple AirPods? I mean, how much content can you write about that? And now, you might have, I don't know, 1,000 reviewers out there writing a piece of content by hand. Now you can have 10,000 robots writing 50,000 different pieces of articles on that. That's the biggest concern I have. I just don't know how Google is going to deal with that. I think when they have the EEAT, the experience, expertise, authoritative, and trust, AI could technically write like that. It could write in that style. It could pull from people who have experience. It could pull from people who have expertise and trust and all that type of stuff. Will Google be adding more? I spoke to Glenn Gabe. I published a video yesterday on my YouTube channel talking about an extra E, entertainment. Can AI make entertainment? Now you see videos that are generated by AI. So maybe yes. I mean, so that's the big concern. It will be very fascinating to see how content will be scaling over the next several months, and how Google search is going to deal with that in terms of indexing and ranking that stuff. But I think ultimately Google wants the most helpful content, and what do they care if a machine wrote it versus a human, or a blend of the two? I think that's their stance right now.
How about the search results? Do you think search will change starting tomorrow with Magi?
Yeah, I do, but I saw everything already, so I really can't say too much.
Okay.
So everybody expects the search to change. How it would change, I'm not going to tell you, because I saw it already, just to be honest. But you'll see it in about 24 hours from now. You'll see it for yourself. So I think the keynote starts at 1:00. So in 24 hours and 30 minutes from now, you all see what I saw.
Wow, we're gonna wait for your tweets and follow you in Mastodon, and we wait for that. Definitely. Yes. Do you use the IA to work? How do you use it?
So I don't use it for content. I don't like the way it writes my content. I like people read my content and I have a certain type of tone with my content. They know they know that how I sound. And when I use AI to rewrite some stuff, I tried it for fun. And I tried it multiple times for fun over multiple periods, not just once. I just don't like how it comes out. But I do use it for generating images on my stories, because when you have a really technical topic, let's say you want to have a robot, doing some type of dance. You can't find that on Shutterstock. You can't draw that. So I can make a robot. I can make, talking about pagination, I can have a robot with glasses reading a book. I mean, you can't have that anywhere else. You can make an image about canonicals. You can't do that with Shutterstock. All the technical topics, you can make the most accurate image describing the content that is unheard of before, and I think it's great. And it should be interesting, because it's the same problem, I guess, in terms of, artists or content creators. I think they have the same issue, but I've been using it. Literally 99% of my images now are all from Midjourney, which is an amazing tool to create images. I pay for it, and bigger question is how does copyright work with that, and patent infringement and stuff like that? But I'm not a lawyer, so we'll see.
No, but we can also see how you grow with the quality of the images and everything. Right now, you are sharing these images. It's incredible. I mean, they are amazing. You cannot see that anywhere else. So
it's fun, and I assume other people are going to start doing it too. I think some other publishers have started to use AI for images. I'm surprised more haven't. But it's really just amazing, the stuff you can make that describes the content to a T, even with some cuteness and some creativity on top of it, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And you do an awesome job communicating and explaining SEO to everyone. Do you think Google could be more helpful in that matter?
I think they are trying to be as helpful as they can. There's just they can't say too much, because sometimes things are not announced yet. They can't say too much because sometimes people could use that information to manipulate the search results. I think also the more they tell us, the more we know that they're not telling us. So it's like a lose-lose situation. Why should they go ahead and tell us anything? Because, they told us this. So if they told us this, then how does that work? Because we think that works something differently. Like the whole thing with canonicals and syndicated content came out, and Google's like, no longer use canonicals for syndicated content because we don't really know if it's going to work or not. You should just block the content. And what syndicated content provider is going to go ahead and block their content? Initially, we were like, what syndicated content provider is going to use a canonical to say that this site is the original source? Google News had a support tag that said, this is the original source. Which person's going to say the original source of this piece of content is from here if they're writing it? They want to rank well. So I think the more Google tells us, the more we're like, we don't trust them. But at the same time, the more they're telling us, and the more they're trying to say, hey, this is what is happening. This is what you should believe. But then if they tell us something, we're like, but you told us something different later. And we're like, no, that's not related to this. And there's a lot of confusion. So I think the more they tell us, the more confusion we have. And the more the confusion we have, the less we trust them. So I kind of think they're in a lose-lose situation by telling us stuff. Back in the old days, they didn't tell us anything. We just did whatever we want. But now I do think overall they're trying super hard to communicate as best as possible. They have amazing help documentation telling people how to create search engine-friendly websites, how to create images, how to do everything. And I think there's much, much more useful and much more information out there than we ever had from Google. And I appreciate that. But I think also it's kind of like, they can't win. It's not fair to them. I do feel bad. And I cause a lot of issues. I mean, I'm always saying, well, Google wrote this and this is new, but Google said this over here and this contradicts that. And then Google has to go ahead and spend time updating all the documentation and so forth. So I do think it's a lose-lose situation, but I do think it's overall trying to communicate much better.
Yeah. Also, when we finally think we understood something and we said, "Oh, this is working like this," then come in John Mueller and say something on Twitter to change our mind and to let us think again that we were wrong. So I think that's kind of funny as well for us. I mean, John is also an amazing person to follow and to read everything he reads. It's like to read Google, because sometimes he says one thing and then he says another thing. So the confusion is everywhere.
Right. I think a lot of that has to do with the context. Like he might reply to a specific situation and people might say, all right, that means for everything and doesn't mean for everything. So when I write, I often try to say, this is where I got it from, embed the whole conversation so people can read it. Just in case I get it wrong. I've gotten it wrong sometimes. Google said, hey, this is not what we meant. I will update the story and tell people. But often I hope I get it right more than I get it wrong. But yeah, I mean, we all try. I think Google tries hard. I try hard. I think the community tries hard. And it's just, how things are. I mean, it's not just SEO, it's every topic on the internet. So
definitely. And speaking a bit more about Barry, how is your job on a normal day? I mean, when you wake up, what are you doing? Having a coffee, of course?
No, I don't have coffee. I get up around 5 local time here, and I obviously the first thing I do is check emails, go through RSS feeds. I do that immediately. I usually get to the office hopefully around 5:30, 5:40, which is about a 15-minute drive from my house. My office is empty. I have about 3,000 square feet, which fits about, if you don't have square feet there. So it fits about, 40 people. None of my employees come to the office anymore. For the most part, they're all remote. They don't want to come back. My lease is up here in about a year, so hopefully I'll get rid of the lease and get a smaller place. But I've been stuck in this lease since COVID. And I probably write from around, probably until about 9 a.m. Eastern local time. Then I do the RustyBrick stuff, my core job, with sporadic stuff like this during the middle of the day. Some obviously breaking news happens. I'll be able to hopefully, cover that as well if things happen. But generally, I try to divide my time from early mornings to write about SEO and search, and then do the core work for RustyBrick throughout the day. Makes for a good separation. And obviously, there are things that pop up throughout the day that have to be taken care of on the SEO side, which I'm able to do, thankfully, based on my current job.
And do you currently offer SEO services?
I do not offer SEO services, no. I don't want to. Why don't I offer SEO services? The main reason is because 2 things. One is I write about it. I don't want my writing to be biased based off of it. It doesn't mean I don't do SEO. By having websites, by definition, you're doing SEO. So you know what works, you know what doesn't work, you test things as well. But I don't want to offer SEO services because, one, it could bias what I write. So if I offer SEO services and I do a lot of link building and Google releases a Penguin update, that could bias what I write about the Penguin update, for example. If also I want Google to be able to trust me and give me information. So if I am offering SEO services, Google would not, be as transparent as they are with me. Sometimes telling me things off the record that help me communicate stuff better to the readers. So those are the 2 main reasons. Plus, I find it hard to offer SEO services. I think, no offense to SEOs, but it's something you don't control. My company does web software development. We have a spec, we build what the client wants to a T. For the most part, this is what they want. We build it, we deliver it. With SEO, you can't necessarily deliver everything the client wants. It's because Google could release an algorithm update tomorrow, and then all those things you did for them mean nothing. Google could release a brand new search engine tomorrow, and everything you've done for the past 20 years could go out the window. Not that that's happening. I'm not saying it's happening, but I'm saying it could happen. So it's hard to control those deliverables when there is a third party or first party that actually controls the actual rankings of those search results.
Yeah, it is really hard for a SEO to explain this to the client when they come in and asking you, like, when are you gonna see the results and everything. You have to try to make them understand that I'm gonna do a work, we'll see if it works. No, I mean, you have a point there that I hope our clients are not listening now.
Yeah. But again, what you guys do offer is it's best practices. A lot of people don't think about making sites search engine friendly, making sure they could be crawled, making sure you have the right title text and content in the right place, thinking about what your searchers are, what your customers are searching for. Do you have the right pages for them? Are you sending right through the flow? And that's SEOs have adapted over the years. Not just sending traffic, but making sure you have conversions and revenue from your website, doing Google Analytics stuff, conversion marketing, all that other stuff. So I think there are specific tactical stuff you guys do on a day-to-day basis. The main reason I don't do SEO is not because of that. I want to be unbiased in my writing, and I want to be able to, for people on both sides, that I want SEOs that offer SEO services to trust me, to give me information that Google might not want me to know, and I want Google to tell me information that they want SEO is necessary to know, and I think that's the best way of doing what I do.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about Google, but we wanted to ask you too about Twitter. Is Twitter dying?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, Mastodon or however you pronounce it tried to take off. I'm still there. It's not. It's see that seems to be dying. Blue Sky, which is from Jack Dorsey, that I'm on as well. It seems like a ghost town there. The thing is, I'm sharing content everywhere. I'm sharing it on Twitter. I'm sharing it on Mastodon. I'm sharing it on Blue Sky. I'm sharing it on Facebook, LinkedIn. I am not on TikTok, so I apologize. I'm not doing any TikTok.
Not yet. Not yet.
I don't know. People don't like to see this face, so. But I'm more of a content person, so I'm on YouTube. So there's the face there. But I don't. I pretty much share content on most channels outside of Instagram and TikTok for the most part. I don't know if Twitter is dying. I don't know. I hope it doesn't die because it's just a great place for me to find information. It is a great community, despite everything that's gone wrong with it over the years. I do hope it lasts. I hope.
Yeah, we do too.
I
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a bet for any social network regarding this issue. Like you go for Twitter or for Mastodon, or just see how it goes.
No, I'm on everything. So for the most part, so I don't have any bet on what's going to go. I'd be shocked if Twitter dies. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Elon's going to pull the plug, but I don't know.
Okay, so we have the last question here. Jorge Hudson is asking, I think Google has a problem now with AI because although they have their knowledge graph, in the SERPs they run content whose information is not quite correct. If we take into account that in their knowledge panels they show information that they somehow indicate to know, don't you think this could be a problem for the search engine and for your bar, since it easily leads to wrong answers?
Right. So when Google first launched their knowledge graph, the knowledge panel, there were many, many examples of it being wrong, inaccurate, and there was always reasons to point to why they were inaccurate. Either Wikipedia, somebody defaced the Wikipedia page or changed it, and Google sourced that information from there, or from a third party. Usually that information was sourced from a public source. Sometimes they're sourced from licensed content, which Google got in trouble as well from when they had misinformation or stolen information or what it might be. Now with the source of AI, Google got better at that. They were able to better figure out how people were manipulating their sources of content for the knowledge panel. It's not perfect, but it's way, way better than it was when it first launched. You can't compare, but it's not perfect, like you said. Two is, I think you'll have the same thing with BART or any AI generative response that Google gives through maybe Google Search in the future, where people will be able to, I guess, manipulate it somehow. I'm not sure exactly how, but SEOs are very creative. I'm sure they'll figure out ways to do that. And then Google will go, oh, this is what they're doing. This is what we should stop them from doing. And this is a solution through an algorithm or algorithms that we go ahead and tackle to make sure that people don't do that. This is the game that Google's been playing forever. They have a lot of experience in these spaces where they're able to go ahead and say, oh, this information is wrong. How do we trust it? You see Google talk about YMYL, EEAT, how they trust certain content, how they don't trust certain content. They're abstract about what they talk about when they talk about it, but I think they can use a lot of that to kind of figure out what's true and what's factual versus what is hallucination versus what is maybe fictitious and stuff like that. So we will see, but I do expect whatever Google launches in the future will have some laughing moments, just like when they launched Knowledge Panel. People were like, oh, this makes absolutely sense. You still see people say, this person's no longer married to that person. It says they're married. This person has the wrong image for that person. Those are things that can be sourced back to what the answer is. But when it comes to AI, it's going to be obviously a little more challenging. But we will see how Google tackles that information going forward. But I think overall, Google's are nervous about that. And I think that's a good thing for Google to be nervous about, because the more careful they are with those types of things, I think the more accurate they could be with their responses.
For sure.
Amazing. So exciting times are coming.
For sure.
And we will start seeing things tomorrow, as Barry said. So Barry, thank you so much come here to our streaming. We really appreciate this time and your answers. And we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Barry.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So thank you so much for everyone in the chat and all the viewers. We will come back tomorrow for Noticeo, for the news, para las noticias de esta semana. Y el jueves tendremos otro directo hablando de Koyak con Álvaro Sánchez y Sergio Somoza. Angélica, muchísimas gracias por acompañarme y nos veremos mañana, claro.
Gracias. Nos vemos mañana. Barry, again, thank you very much, and we'll see you in Twitter tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.